Who are the top free agent pickups heading into week 6? And let's do a Q&A. Here we go.
Top 5 running backs. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.
Okay, before I get into any Q&A, I want to talk about the available free agents likely available in your league. Start off at tight end. Gerald Everett had 5 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. In a very thin pool of tight ends in 2019, it's very rare to find a guy that has top 6 to 10, maybe top 5 to 10 overall tight end value in week 5 or heading into week 6. So if available, grab Everett off waivers. Herndon would be another tight end to grab if you're struggling at the position. He's coming back from suspension. Definitely look to grab Herndon if available and you need a tight end. Running back, Alexander Madison. I don't know why Madison's available in so many leagues after I talk about him every single week. He's win-a-league material. He is a secret weapon stash, standalone value. Saquon Barkley is pushing to get back for week 6, but if he's unable to go, Gallman, who suffered a concussion, could be hampered. That means John Hillman would be the guy that would step in for a week or whatever amount of time that Barkley remains out. But Barkley, I'll keep you posted on him. He may be back in week 6. He's pushing for it. Reggie Bonifant, Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is a good QB to grab if you need one. Darius Slayton, the wide receiver for the Giants. Robbie Anderson for the Jets. D.D. Westbrook got cut in a lot of leagues heading into week 5. Deontay Johnson's available in a lot of leagues and has some good wide receiver 3-4 value. This is the first week where it feels like things got really flat and the player pool out there is no longer rich in talent. Occasionally a guy will pop up here and there. I wouldn't be shocked if in week 8, week 9, somebody becomes relevant, worthy of a lot of free agent dollars, but right now it's looking pretty thin, which is why I oftentimes will blow a lot of my money, my free agent bid money, on a player that I really believe in weeks 1, 2, or 3. Because once you get into 6, 7, 8, it gets really, really thin. Now let's get into Q&A. What player did you believe in heading into week 1 that you're ready to write off at this point? I will say that David Montgomery is getting there. I am not going to cut him. I'm not going to write him off completely. But situation is tied to player. And in the case of David Montgomery, his situation blows. His coaching staff doesn't believe in him enough to feed him the rock a sufficient amount of times. He needs a certain amount of carries to deliver elite production, and they're not giving it to him. And I don't know that they will. He's been a total bust given the investment that we all made, myself included. But until he produces, we can't buy in to the hype anymore. He's got to go on the bench unless you don't have any good options to go into your lineup. I think he needs to produce a really big game for us to buy back into him. Now, that doesn't mean I couldn't envision a buy low opportunity, but it'd have to be really, really low. It would have to be value that would be a reserve running back with upside. But I'm not counting on him moving forward until I see production. Smitty, do you doubt Patrick Mahomes moving forward? No. One of his worst games of the year, if not one of the worst games he can produce, 301. I think he'll be okay. Pat Mahomes is a guy that can carry you weekly, and if you can get him at even a small discount, attack right now in your league. As I talked about before week 5, Deshaun Watson was the only guy that you could approach that had Pat Mahomes-like capability, at least on occasion. Pat Mahomes is still in tier 1 all by himself. Watson can dance with him and have a cup of coffee on occasion. And Wilson's up there. And you have people right now doubting Aaron Rodgers to be even starter worthy in fantasy, which is crazy to me. Once he gets Adams back, and let's say he doesn't produce with Devante Adams back in the lineup, then we can talk. But I say buy low on Aaron Rodgers right now. Buy low on Adams, but know that we don't really know what's going on with the toe. And if it lingers and he's missing games and hampered all year, then yeah, Adams and A-Rod are going to take a hit. That's the gamble you take betting on somebody like A-Rod and Adams at this point. So pick your poison. You want to go high risk, high reward. If you need a spark for your team to get back in the mix, if you're going to miss the playoffs, if you don't do something crazy, try and make a move for A-Rod and Adams. But if you don't want to take on any risk, then don't trade for either of them. But I buy low on Adams and A-Rod if the price is right. Smitty, who's your biggest buy low heading into week 6? I'll tell you right now, DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know what's going on with people right now. The window to buy at what I consider to be rock bottom, not just good value, rock bottom value for DeAndre Hopkins, that window's going to close fast. As we talked about last week, go buy Deshaun Watson. That window closed. And if you own him now, you're ear to ear grinning because you have a guy that can dance with Pat Mahomes on occasion, one of the only QBs that can. DeAndre Hopkins, to me, is still a top 5, if not top 1 to 5 wide receiver moving forward. I get he struggled. I get you watch Watson blow up, and Hopkins had no part in that blow up, and it's frustrating. You're wondering where's his role. He is the best wide receiver in fantasy football. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL. And he will eat. He will rebound. And if you're going to consider selling him low, if you own him, don't sell him for anything below first round value, which you won't get if you go trade him. So don't trade him. And if you don't own him, his owner might trade him for mid-second round equivalent value if you were talking about a draft right now. And that's crazy. The guy is top 1 to 5 wide receiver upside. And I don't care how many games he slumped in a row. He had 10 yards and 2 TDs in week 1. He hasn't busted all year. And who cares if he's had a string of bad games? This guy can drop 102 TDs on you any given Sunday. Go buy low. Right now, this window won't stay open for much longer. Probably this will be a 5 or 6 day buying window. If you want your question answered on the Fantasy Football Show, comment below. I'm going to grab a couple questions from below and throw into the next episode, which I plan to get out at some point between now and Sunday. Join me every Sunday morning, 1 hour before kickoff. I go live right here on youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show. And every single Wednesday night, I go live here on youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show as I go live at the same time on CBS Sports Radio. And that entire hour I do weekly at 10 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern. I broadcast it live right here on my channel, and join me every Sunday. Be bold, be ahead of the curve, get some.